In the new hit indie game Peak, your goal is to climb to the top. It's a very simple concept, but it has a lot packed into it. But this game has one thing that doesn't seem to fit in with its cute and friendly atmosphere, and that's the Scoutmaster. So for those who might not know, the Scoutmaster is one of the only entities that you can actually find in the game Peak. Built like a stick bug, he is shown as a large monster with green skin that is visibly malnourished. He has long arms and legs that are almost bone-like. If you're unlucky enough to cross paths with him, you can count your run to end right there and then with a single fling. But here's the thing, he might not be as evil as we originally thought he was. But before we can actually get to that, let's talk about the Scoutmaster himself. Who is he? Most of you probably already know this, but the Scoutmaster we find in the island is the same Scoutmaster who wrote the guide you find at the beginning of the game, Scoutmaster Myers. This journal you find has a couple of pages of rules and game mechanics that are used to learn the game. All except one. There's one part of the journal that isn't like the others. This, of course, talking about Rule 0, never abandon a friend. This rule is very clearly important to the Scoutmaster as he wrote it twice in his journal, once at the start and another time at the end. But why is that? Scoutmaster Myers clearly believes this is an important rule to follow since he did write in a different color ink, red instead of black. In order to better understand this, we have to talk about the Scoutmaster's role in the game and what's hidden in all his journal entries. Let's first start with the obvious. He will chase you down like a pit bull named Princess would an unintended child. But one thing that isn't so obvious is that his influence is actually shown from the very start of the game. The Scoutmaster has actually been there from the start, even before you board the plane. If you manage to look behind this gated wall, you can actually find the Scoutmaster waiting there. This would mean that the Scoutmaster would be on the plane when it crashed, meaning that the plane crash was likely not an accident, but the work of the Scoutmaster himself. That means Bing Bong wasn't the cause, so you have to stop blaming Bing Bong. He did nothing wrong, he's a good boy. There's also more evidence to back this up because, as I mentioned before, what is the very first thing that you actually find when you crash land? That's right, Scoutmaster Myers' own personal survival journal. But why would he leave his journal behind? I think he did this on purpose. Why? Well, this could tie into the Scoutmaster's history with the island itself. The Scoutmaster and his team also landed in this island by boat, way before you and your team did. We can actually find this out by reading one of the notes that he left behind where it says, quote, "The ship captain made an oopsie. We've wound up crashed in this mysterious island." This is the reason we can actually find more notes left behind by the Scoutmaster that gives us a bit more information of what actually happened during the expedition, and also giving us more information on the Scoutmaster's character itself. One of the most important notes left behind is bonus rule number 3, embrace the occult. This note provides us with some information on how the island works. In it, it is stated that one of the scouts died by touching a sea urchin, but was then later revived when another scout touched the statue. This statue is the ancient statue that we find at every campfire section after we climb a mountain. But the most interesting thing is how the Scoutmaster actually views the other person dying. He seems to not really mind or care. I mean, think about it. In order for the scout to die from a sea urchin, he must have had to die right at the beginning of the island. This would mean that the Scoutmaster went from the start of the shore to the peak of the first mountain without ever feeling sad or writing about it. But the other weird thing is the title of the note itself, Embrace the Occult. The Scoutmaster seems willing to fully rely on the weird cryptic laws of the island, not caring about the consequences themselves. He even describes reviving a dead person as wacky, almost like it was funny to him. More notes can actually be found, but none of them really tell you much other than basic survival tips such as what kind of mushrooms are edible or how to stay warm by seeking cover. But the last 3 notes, though, add more to how the Scoutmaster ended up the way he is. In bonus rule 5, the Scoutmaster talks about how he found a moon-shaped fruit that caused him to fall asleep. This happened while he was writing it in his journal, meaning that it was quick and sudden. The next journal you can find after this has the Scoutmaster waking up only to find the rest of the group missing, so he decides to go look for them, mentioning how they would never break Rule 0 and abandon him. But then we get to the last note. This note can only be found in Caldera, meaning that the Scoutmaster went from Alpine to Caldera without being able to find his group. This final letter reminds the person reading it to never abandon a friend in need and to never forget Rule 0, all with large red writing on top saying,
they left me behind. But notice how Rule 0 is no longer colored red. In every other journal entry, we actually see it in red ink, but now it's black. Now, the original black part of the note was most likely written when the Scoutmaster was searching for his group, but once he found out they left them behind, he decided to write the red writing on top. This would mean that this is not what the Scoutmaster actually believes anymore, because in this point in time, he actually truly believed that his group abandoned him. They left me behind is his true intentions and feelings at this point in time, because in his mind, he was abandoned and left. This guilt and fear gave the island the opportunity to consume him, take him over. This event is what actually caused him to go crazy, and it's probably what caused him to slowly become the monster he is now. But was he really left behind? I actually don't think he was abandoned. I think the island separated the group from the Scoutmaster on purpose, knowing full well how much the Scoutmaster cared about the rules. They decided to use this as an advantage to take hold of him. After all, the Scouts already knew that the island statues can revive people, and there were 2 more statues right after Alpine's that could be used to revive him, meaning they had full knowledge that he was still alive unless the island did something to make them forget. Still, even if it was intentional or not, this incident is what caused him to hold a grudge on those who left him behind, so he decided to have others experience the same abandonment that he did. But here's the thing about the Scoutmaster in game. He never attacks a player unless they are separated from their group. And not only that, but he will always go after the player that is closest to the top of the mountain and is alone. Now, while yes, it is evil to attack someone just because they're alone, this might not actually be entirely the Scoutmaster's will. While he does tend to not feel that much emotions when someone dies, as mentioned before in the Sea Urchin note, he doesn't just randomly attack scouts. He only attacks scouts that break his rule, Rule 0. He is testing them, trying to see if they would abandon others for their own safety, just like how he was abandoned. This is more evident by what kind of reward you actually get after you complete a run. If everyone makes it to the peak, you will get the Scoutmaster's hat. If you do it without losing conscience, you will get his clothes. But if a teammate leaves you behind, instead, you get a dirty and worn out shirt and pants, symbolizing your abandonment, just like the Scoutmaster had been abandoned before. But how did he deteriorate so fast after he was abandoned? That's because the island is cursed. You can see its mysticism and darkness everywhere. By how the statues can revive people, how they have Pandora's box in the island, a mythical item of legends that is said to host all the evil in the world in Greek mythology, but also the ancient statue itself. Take a good look at the statue. What do you see? That's right. It's shaped exactly like a scout, with its stash and its backpack in full view. This is because the island has taken the memories and soul of the Scoutmaster, making it a vessel for itself, to lure in more scouts into a constant cycle to test them. But the statue tells us that the Scoutmaster hasn't fully fallen into the island's control. Because if you look at the notes talking about the statues, you can actually see that the Scoutmaster never once mentions how it looks like a scout or has drawn it. We know he can draw scouts because he has done it before. Why wouldn't he draw it this time? The statue was probably just that, a normal statue that was of no significant look or status. Probably meant nothing to the Scoutmaster. That's why he didn't think of it anything significant other than being able to revive someone. This means that the Scoutmaster probably has some influence on the island itself and is trying to help you along the way as much as he can. Why else would you have so many items given to you at each peak? Especially at the last bonfire, the very last location that we know the Scoutmaster was at. The Scoutmaster isn't trying to hurt you on purpose, he's being forced to because the island is making him do it. This is why he leaves you the notes. This is why he has so many suitcases scattered around the map. It's the Scoutmaster leaving them so that they can help you. After all, your plane is way too small to be able to carry that incredibly large cargo. This means that all of this material was probably left behind by former scouts who were there and probably didn't pass the Scoutmaster's test. This is because the Scoutmaster isn't really a monster, he's a victim himself, stuck in the island that's constantly being changed with every new scout that enters, forced to act on his hatred he harbors after being abandoned. So next time you see the Scoutmaster, make sure to give him a hug and some of your scout treats. And if you enjoyed the video, please make sure to leave a like or a comment. I don't usually do content like this since I normally just post videos of my streams. If you want, you can follow me here on Twitch, TikTok, or follow me home at night. That way you can make sure I make it home safely. But always make sure to follow Rule 0. That way the Scoutmaster isn't forced to hunt you down.